What a gorgeous day for us to listen in to a little bit more of the apostles writing to the church in Rome. Rome, Italy was the heart of the Roman Empire. It was the imperial capital where the Senate would meet, where the grand temples of their religions were built, as well as many throughout the world. But this is a place where the Roman army had its headquarters, where the Navy would have its headquarters. And the apostle is writing to these believers in the capital of the empire. And he says, you need to submit yourself to every authority because there is no authority that does not belong to Jesus. There is no one in authority that isn't there by God's hand. Here in verses 6 and 7 of chapter 13, he says, for because of this, you also pay taxes, for rulers are servants of God, devoting themselves to this very thing. Render to all what is due them. Tax, to whom tax is due. Custom, to whom custom. Fear, to whom fear. Honor, to whom honor. He says, those that are working for the government are paid by your taxes. So you pay tax. There's a movement, and there has been for a long time, people trying to get out of their responsibilities to the authorities that are actually placed above them by God himself. You can't get around this chapter here in Romans, in this letter. I've tried to get around it. I've tried to get over it. I've tried to get under it. You can't do it. It's so clear that when you're a citizen of a country, whether it's the United States or wherever you happen to live, if you're a citizen of that country, then you have responsibilities to your country. One of those responsibilities is to pay tax so that the law enforcement, the fire protection, you name it, the different officers in the county or the state or the nation can get a paycheck. That's how they support their families. So we pay tax because God has put them in that office. Whether we agree with them or not is not the question. Whether they're handling that authority properly in a righteous manner, that's not the question. The question is, how do I as a Christian submit to the authority that is above me? And like we looked at already, we submit to these authorities as unto Christ himself. That's how a wife is commanded to submit to her husband, not because he's respectable or a good example of Christianity. It's because she's a Christian. She's a Christ follower. And therefore she submits to her husband as she submits to Christ. I submit to the authorities over me as I submit to Christ, as if it were Christ himself. I submit to that authority because it's Christ's authority. I pay taxes because he tells me, submit to the authority. Pay tax to whom it's due. Give custom to whom custom is due. If you're importing and exporting, you know what that's all about. And give fear, give respect to those to whom respect is due. It's as if Paul is saying, look, you owe something to everyone you encounter, to the street sweeper and the garbage collector, to the mail carrier, to the president, to the king. You owe something to everyone you meet, to your teachers, to your coworkers, to your boss, to those that may be under you at work, under your supervision. You owe something to everyone, which runs completely contrary to this attitude of entitlement. I walk in and my response to you ought to be guided and filtered by this truth: I owe you something. It may be respect, it may be honor, it may be tax, it may be a custom. I owe something to everyone I encounter. At least I owe them respect. At the very least. So it doesn't matter if I'm your foreman or you're my boss. I owe you something. If you're my boss, I owe you submission and obedience. If you're my employee, or if you're under my supervision, I owe you respect. I don't owe you submission. I don't owe you that honor as if you're placed above me in the workplace, but I at least owe you respect. So I want to challenge you with the same idea with which I was challenged, and that is, everyone I encounter, everyone, I owe them something. So one of the questions that ought to be rolling through my mind as I have a conversation or an encounter with people is, what do I owe this person? And then I render it to them. If it's respect, if it's kindness, if it's a compliment, if it's encouragement, I want to give to each what I owe. And with that idea, I think it's easiest when we're constantly refreshed with the idea that God loves us. There's more love where that came from. I just so deeply appreciate the idea that love covers a multitude of sins. That love motivated God to become one of us, to lay down his life to save us. There's more of that love available. You cannot share too much of it. So, discover what you owe to the people that you encounter and give it to them. God will resource you. He will be your resource, and you will not exhaust it. And it all stems from this amazing love that he has for you. God loves you, and we love you.